is all about finding the surprising science angles to everyday news.
Mind absolutely blown.
Amazing to me.
That's Unexpected Elements from the BBC World Service. Find it wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
This is The Documentary from the BBC World Service. And just a warning, this episode of Heart and Soul, which explores personal approaches to spirituality from around the world, contains a lot of talk about sex.
So I've got a couple of hijabs here. I've got my black one, I've got a little ready-made one. I prefer the ones that aren't ready-made.
I'm in an upmarket hotel in a UK city with 26-year-old Alia, and she's showing me how to put on a hijab.
And this is what I was taught growing up. Just like that. Up and around. And that's it.
Alia was born in the UK but describes herself as being of Pakistani heritage. She's tiny and very beautiful, with huge eyes with long fake eyelashes and long dark hair.
And then I've got a little clip that I usually put in because when you're doing a lot of content and moving around, as you probably see, there's probably a few hairs poking out because I'm not looking in the mirror.
Alia does consider herself a Muslim, but she's not covering her hair for reasons of modesty. Alia is the stage name she uses for her sex work. She makes adult content, often while wearing a hijab, for subscribers on an online platform.
It is the traditional, just a black hijab around my head, covers you up, but I love the fact that it's see-through. The see-through part really gets it going for me.
I'm Julia Paul, and in this episode of Heart and Soul, I'm finding out how 4 women reconcile their religious faith with their lives as sex workers. Now, you might think religion and sex work are simply not compatible.
I do get a lot of hate. They'll say, you're a disgrace, you're disgusting. I can't believe you're disrespecting us like this. I can't believe you're mocking a religion.
But for others, faith is their only protection in a world that can be very dangerous.
One person, they will take a long time in the sex. We can't bear the pain. I will pray, Jesus save me, Mother Mary save me. You should get up soon.
My faith really helps me. Because if not for my faith, believe me, I could have committed suicide in a lot of things. But my faith has made me to keep on believing, to keep on pushing, to keep on working hard.
And how difficult is it to maintain your faith when you're a sex worker?
I have a lot of customers that are Islamic scholars, you understand. They practice the Islam, but they come with all the sex. But believe me, the same people, if they should catch anybody doing that in public, they'll punish the person. But I know what they do behind the closed door.
I'm speaking to women in Nigeria, India and the UK. And another warning, we'll also be hearing about sexual assault and female genital mutilation.
My life in the sickos.
So these would be some of your props and stuff.
Actually, yeah, you've got one of my dildos in here, my giant vibrator. Sorry.
When you say sex worker, what is your work?
You probably instantly think prostitutes. But for me, I make videos of my boyfriend with other men and I post them online. So I make money from online videos.
To be clear, Alia is filmed having sex with these men.
I wear my hijab in content and I'm portraying my repressed character where I was a repressed hijabi. I was made to wear clothes I didn't really want to wear, made to cover up. So when I do wear the hijab in content, it's a character of mine where I can be like, I'm going to wear a hijab and I can then, do this on camera. Great. I love that. I think it's really empowering. So I've got these characters. I've got hijabi Alia, there's innocent Alia, there's Mistress Alia, who's very recent, very dominatrix kind of thing. And it is finally get to explore my sexuality. I'm not the only one who does it. There's millions of women and men who do it. I've just made it very mainstream.
And is that lucrative for you?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll tell you now, I absolutely love doing it.
The response Alia gets to her work is mixed.
The great feedback I get from a lot of people is, you've helped my marriage. Husbands and wives sat together that are Muslim. They have said, we've had such a dull sex life. You've added a fire, a spark. I've had girls contact me saying, oh my God, you've made me see the light. Boys have said, oh my God, you're a role model. The fact that you're doing this, a Pakistani girl who's Muslim and getting all the death threats that you get, and all the haters. So he goes, fair play to you, you're my inspiration. So I get so many fans who absolutely love me.
So
And then
what about the bad response?
the bad response, I was just about to move on to that. I do get a lot of hate. They'll say, you're a disgrace, you're disgusting. I can't believe you're disrespecting us like this. I can't believe you're mocking a religion. I was like, actually, there's nothing I've really done to mock the religion. I don't do blasphemy content. I don't bring any religious props into my scenes. I don't go onto a prayer mat. I don't do any of these things. When it's men from religious backgrounds, like Muslim men, ask me to do that stuff.
How did you end up getting into sex work?
I was married with my ex-husband. He was always getting us into debt. I jokingly said to him that I reckon I do really well on OnlyFans. I've never done it before. Made an account and then started posting pictures of my feet, and then started getting a bit more adventurous, started posting more of the rest of me, and then it kind of went on from there. Never used to show my face. So I started in February 2021 and then revealed my face in 2022. But getting into it, it was a case of my ex-husband not giving me any attention, me always being repressed growing up, being Muslim, being told this is what you always have to do, and then me finally deciding, nope, I'm going to do what I want. I actually enjoy showing off and I'm making a pretty penny from it. So why not do it as a career? I was a bank manager, you know, I'm not a person to flaunt. I'm not a person to be like, hey, look at me, I'm going to go around in my Ferrari everywhere. But I'll tell you now, I would never go back. I would never go back.
I want to find out how this sits with Alia's description of herself as a Muslim now. But first, I'm going to introduce you to two women who sell sex in Bangalore in India. Their financial circumstances and their paths have been very different to Alia's.
ಅಲ್ಲ ದೇವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನನಗೆ
ನಾನು ಬಂದು ಒಬ್ಬರನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಂದ ಮೋಸ ಹೋಗಿ
These two women, who we're calling Damayanti and Manu, are part of the Sadhana Mahila Sangha Sex Workers Collective.
me 19 years I was studying first year.
Damayanti is a 39-year-old Christian. She's a mother and a wife. As a teenager, she found herself on the streets because of a health condition.
I did not know I was a diabetic patient. I became very thin. My mother, my sister thought I have a big issue in the health. No one allowed me inside the house. They punished me and outside. I was struggling for my food, my clothes, my medicine. I was going to evening college and morning I was in garments. I got two friends. They was in a sex work. I went to my friend house and I asked her help. They didn't force me. No one forced me. Because of my food, because of my clothes, my shelter, I selected to go to do sex work.
So it was out of financial necessity that Damayanti turned to sex work. After marriage, she initially stopped, but she and her husband were still struggling, so she started again. He doesn't know what she does, but she believes that God does.
Again I came to sex work. No one was there. I can't tell about this, about my life to my husband. I told everything to the God. I'm going. I should be safe. How I'm going, I should come back safely like that. God saved me like.
For Damayanti, God is the only protector she has.
When you talk to God, what does he say to you? What comfort do you get from that?
God is doing something. I was in the street, no one was there. He came, he guided me like, I will be there for you, protecting me.
ನಾನು ಬಂದು ಒಬ್ಬರನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಂದ ಮೋಸ ಹೋಗಿ ಬಂದೆ.
That's Manu, another member of the collective. She's 40 and a Hindu. At 19, she ran away from home with a man she'd fallen in love with who said he'd marry her. But once she was away from her family, he started to make excuses and pressure her to do sex work. Afraid he would traffic her, she ran away from him, but the only place she could go was the street, which brought her back to sex work. Manu doesn't speak English, so the project manager of the Sex Collective translates for her.
I had to depend on streets and I was introduced to sex work. So eventually even I became a sex worker.
How difficult was that at the start?
ತುಂಬ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಯಿತು ಬಟ್ ಮಲಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಜಾಗ
Living on streets was very difficult because I was in a safe and comfort house. From that to being on street was very difficult. It was a bad journey for me in the beginning.
How did that affect your faith when you found yourself on the streets?
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ದೇವರು ಅನ್ನೋದೆಲ್ಲನೂ ಅವಾಗ
I used to love worshipping gods. I used to fast. I used to do all kinds of rituals. When it came to God, my belief was very strong. Later, when I ran away from home, the heart that was cheated, how could it remember God? While on the streets, all I could think was my hunger, and I had to think of my stomach. And a God who put me on street was not in my mind.
And how did you get your faith back?
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದಿನ ಇದ್ದೆ ನಾನು 6 ತಿಂಗಳು ರೈಸ್.
It's very difficult to survive on streets because I had no home to go back in the night. There was no proper food also. So while on the streets, there's also a threat to life from miscreants like rowdies, gundas. So somewhere I was protected. So my faith was somehow restored in the fact that I was not attacked on the streets. Also, when I found my life partner, my faith was fully restored because I did again find the safety of the house, and slowly it eventually became stronger.
In Nigeria, a woman we're calling Zara is making dinner as the call to prayer starts. She's a 33-year-old Muslim and she's a sex worker. She now has her own home and a rented space she uses for her work. But as a teenager, she also came to sex work when she found herself homeless on the street.
My faith also helps me to be grateful for whatever I have, to be grateful in every situation I am, because as a Muslim, whatever you see yourself into, good, bad, ugly, you say praises to Allah. You thank God for that, because there are people that are in worse situation than you are.
I meet her on Zoom at the office she uses for her work. She's wearing a traditional Nigerian headscarf and dress in the same bold green pattern.
My faith really helps me, because if not for my faith, believe me, I could have committed suicide in a lot of things. But my faith has made me to keep on believing, to keep on pushing, to keep on working hard.
We're protecting her identity because while her religion is a great support to her, it also means, as a sex worker, she's in great danger.
I know what I'm doing is a crime against Islam, it's a sin. Because if I'm caught selling sex, being single, I'm supposed to be flogged 80 lashes of cane in public. And if I'm found married, I'm stoned to death. That's the Sharia law. Being a Muslim again and knowing you're committing a sin and you know every single verse of the Quran and the Hadith, you kind of like, oh, why am I doing this? But at the end of the day, you get to find out that God, the Allah that we worship, He doesn't judge, you understand? He doesn't judge, He's the Almighty, He's the only person that can forgive. All He needs you to do is to repent. One thing that also helps me to overcome my worries, I know that after sex, I have to have my ritual bath. It's a form of cleansing for me because I wash every part of my body and I perform the ablution from head to toe and I pray, And sometimes when I'm praying, I cry like, God, why am I in this position? Why am I doing this? Why do I have to do this to survive? But with that also, I thank the Almighty God, because there's a reason for me selling sex.
How she got into sex work is a complicated story, which highlights just how difficult life can be for Nigerian women. Zara was raped at a young age when she was attacked playing in her garden. Then both her parents died. She lived with a relative, but she says she was being accused of things she hadn't done by other family members. She decided to leave and live on the streets.
It was really difficult because growing up, I have everything that every child's supposed to have. But I've already made up my mind, no matter what, I'm not going back home.
There was a reason for you leaving. It was that bad.
Yes, it was very bad because being a child, I don't know what was wrong, what was happening, why am I being accused of a lot of things that I'm not doing. And even when I moved to the street, it was so difficult to pick up the life on the street, but I just have to make a living.
I was confused by Zara's story. Leaving a home where she was safe to live on the streets seems like an extreme choice. But then, a week after we've spoken, she texts me with some horrifying revelations. So I call her again.
Okay, it's just brief,
I was really shocked when I got your text about what had happened in your past.
Yeah. I was young. It's after when I was raped. And I don't know why they did that. It's a way that they believe to protect a lady, to cut and sew her up,
In case it's not clear what Zara means, she's talking about female genital mutilation.
It was a painful experience. And also I can remember that this is the cause that I was afraid of sexual intercourse, and it's nothing like pleasant to me. So finding myself now selling sex and others, I just have to let the past go, but it's still haunting. Because I can remember the painful experience, seeing the woman with the blade, other people holding my legs, my hand, and it's not nice at all, And there's thing that they do after they finish.
It's almost too horrific to listen to what Zara is telling me, but she wants to talk about it. She says she feels as if a weight has been lifted from her. But she also wants to stress this practice is not part of Islam, even though many women think that is the case.
Some of them told me that they thought it's part of our religion, being a Muslim, being a Hausa person. At first I thought it was like that, but growing up, get to know my religion better. There's nothing like that in Islam that say you should do that. No, it's all to do with the custom, the traditional way, but nothing like that in Islam.
But I wondered, how had this experience affected her faith?
Islam is always looking for an easy way for us to survive, to live. And every single thing we do, the answer is there in the Quran or the Hadith. Then why are they doing this? I try to pray, let my heart become easier, and I should find a place in my heart to forgive those that make me go through that. But reading the Quran and getting to Hadith, I was able to find my answers, by just having faith and let God take control of my life and just try to let the past go.
I'm Julia Paul, and for Heart and Soul on the BBC World Service, I'm talking to sex workers in the UK, India and Nigeria about their work and their faith.
So this is my profile.
Back in the UK, Alia is showing me her online fan base.
I'll just show you my page. So I've got 3,000 fans currently. 3,000.
She also has 156,000 followers on X, formerly known as Twitter, 31,000 followers on TikTok, and she and her boyfriend have 9,000 followers on Instagram. This lifestyle is a long way from her upbringing.
So growing up, how big a part of your life was Islam?
It was huge. Ever since you were awake in the morning to when you went to bed, Islam was there. You had to read your kalmas, which is like a little prayer before you sleep, because you were always told as little children that if you die, you won't go to heaven if you don't do this. I would pray every day. I would go to the mosque probably about 2 or 3 times a month. I actually have quite a lot of memories there with my siblings, my sisters. They're my best friends. I talk to them all the time. Whenever we used to go, the mosque used to be empty. So they have these massive rooms with the carpet, and the carpet is literally prayer mat after prayer mat. That's how it is. And I just have memories of us running up and down there. Eid time, we used to get really excited. We'd see a mountain of presents, even though it was all just chocolates and it was all for the cousins. We didn't really get any. You spent a whole long month fasting. You weren't allowed to listen to music. So the happy memories would be spending time with my sisters on Eid and my brothers and getting really dolled up, wearing your bangles, putting the earrings on.
How did you think of God when you were growing up then? If you tried to picture him, what did you see?
I would always see it as this guy with a massive beard, quite strict and quite mean. Older man, even though no one actually knows what gender any god is.
Was there ever any sense that father figure could care for you or could help you, could protect you in any way?
Absolutely not, no.
Were there times when you tried to sort of communicate yourself with him?
There would be times where if I'd been really upset or I've gone through a really hard time, I'd be alone in the room, crying my eyes out, and I'd be like, why? I'd talk to him that way. Why have you put this life upon us? I stopped questioning from the age of 13 onwards. At that point, I just didn't even think about him being a person or being there for us. I just thought, you make your own way in life.
You might imagine that Alia has entirely left the faith of her childhood, and many Muslims would say her lifestyle means she can no longer be a part of Islam. But she still describes herself as a Muslim. If you've rejected the structure of Islam,
yes,
and you don't talk to God,
yeah,
what makes you a Muslim?
The teachings. I still believe I'm Muslim, 100% believe I'm Muslim. Although I may not talk to a God, I still believe in right and wrong. And within the Quran, there's a lot in there that just basically says this is wrong, this is right. I'm pretty much sticking to those rules. I'm not killing anybody, not breaking any laws. I'm very positive in life. I don't feel like I need to cover up, because regardless, you can still cover up and men will still look at you the same, and they do. A lot of Muslims will argue saying that you're not Muslim then. How do you actually know? Unless you are Allah yourself, you don't know. I will be the one to answer for myself on my judgment day. And if there is an Allah, or she or them are there, and they're going to say, Alia, why did you do this in life? I'll be like, wow, it's the life that you planned for me. So I've made the most of it.
For Alia, the Islam of her childhood was in direct conflict with her sexuality. And she says her sex work is a reaction against that.
Being a Muslim, I must pray, I must do this, I can't do that. I can't eat the wrong meat, I can't drink alcohol, I can't look at boys. So it was a very much a case of being Muslim means being really repressed. I felt quite, I was in a cage. But back then, being Muslim was pretty much my life. And I would totally agree that the Muslim upbringing is the reason why, I am the way I am now, and I'm telling my stories. Although I get loads of hate when I wear a hijab especially, and when I wear even my normal clothes, for me it is 2 middle fingers up to them and say, do you know what? I'm my own person. I'm not hurting anybody. I can do whatever I want.
Alia made the point several times that many of her subscribers, those who pay to see her content, are Muslim themselves. And some ask her to perform acts which she regards as blasphemous. I wanted to know if the other women had also experienced this hypocrisy.
Everyone have their own wishes, right? We are there to give the good service.
In India, Damayanti is not surprised by my question.
So when you're actually working as a sex worker, religious leaders come to you for sex?
Not only church, like Hindu Pujari also, he came 2 times. They will come, they will take a bath and they will go off. They're saying, why you are doing this dirty things? You can go for any housekeeping, any other work. I will say it's a not wrong thing, but always they will say that is the wrong thing.
In northern Nigeria, the Muslim faith is a shared experience between Zara and her clients.
Some of them, when they come, we sit together, we recite the Holy Quran, we read the Hadith. Some of them even preach. If I'm going through a lot, they'll give me a verse to read or some prayers to do or some ritual to do, you understand? And they help me a lot. There's one of my customers, if I'm reciting the Holy Quran and I'm kind of lost, I'll call him and he will help me to pick it up.
But she's also aware of the hypocrisy.
I have a lot of customers that are Islamic scholars, you understand? They practice the Islam, but they come with all the sex. But believe me, the same people, if they should catch anybody doing that in public, they'll punish the person. But I know what they do behind the closed door.
And do you ever challenge them about their faith because they are coming to visit you as a client? What do you say to them?
A lot of them, I do ask them, solid sex is bad, it's against the Islam, it's a sin. So why do you continue supporting the sex workers? Some will just tell you that they cannot help it. And some of them will just say, they are not judging us, we shouldn't judge them, we should just let them be. A lot of them, they don't like challenges. But when you challenge through sight, God will forgive you when you ask for forgiveness.
You see these religious people coming to you privately for sex, but condemning sex workers in public. How difficult does that hypocrisy make it for you to keep on following your faith?
To see people preaching and not acting on what they preach is very, very difficult. And sometimes it makes me break down. I cry. It's not easy. Those people, they call themselves Muslim. They are not truly Muslims because they are not practicing what is in the Islam. Islam is peace. Even see someone committing sin, you try to make the person understand that he or she is committing sin and he can stop. And if he should stop, God will forgive that person. God is always ready to forgive.
Sex work has always challenged religion, but when I asked all of the women if they were ashamed of what they did, they told me they weren't. For Alia in the UK, following the Islam of her childhood was not compatible with the sex work she loves, but she retains a spirituality. In India, finding themselves in sex work initially led Damayanti and Manu to question their belief, but now it's a part of their support network. While in Nigeria, Zara's faith remains strong, despite being challenged by the hypocrisy of serving the very men who condemn her as a criminal. For all of these women, their sex work and their faith can coexist. My Sex Worker, My Faith was presented and produced by me, Julia Paul.